Welcome back, folks. I have a special guest reviewer, my eye candy for the evening, my lovely wife, Nicole.
Thanks, honey. That was sweet.
Originally, we called these moments way back in the day Corey's Video Corner, and I no longer have a video corner. I just have a spare room in my house.
Well, you could. There are videos there. We could stand up.
There's videos over there on a shelf.
It's not
Today, we are reviewing the recent... bad lighting? That's what this channel is all about. We're reviewing the recent Steven Spielberg release, The Fabelmans, which we saw at the Brendan Theater in downtown Modesto. Matinee, New Year's Day, 2023. First video review of the new year. I have been wanting to see this, but it had mostly been playing in the Bay Area, far away. So it finally is local. And I dragged my wife along to see it. She had no idea, and I made her go and see it with me.
It was pretty good.
2 hours and 17-minute runtime.
A little long.
You thought it was a little long?
Yeah, a little bit.
She went down a rabbit hole reading about the life of Steven Spielberg on the way home. I love period films. I love Paul Dano as an actor. I think one of my most favorite movies with him is There Will Be Blood from 2006 or 7.
Don't do it.
P.T.
It's
Anderson.
scary.
It is not scary. It's disturbing.
Yeah.
Paul Dano playing one of the villainesque people. If you haven't seen There Will Be Blood, highly recommend that film. One of my favorite films of P.T. Anderson and one of my favorite films of all time.
If you like Hallmark movies and you don't like creepy, scary things, you might not like it.
My wife's more of a basic white girl movie person, and I'm more of a connoisseur of the finer things, although if you've watched my movie reviews, you probably think otherwise. Anyway, Steven Spielberg, he's always been one of my favorite directors. I can remember seeing his first movie, which was made for TV, Duel, as a kid, and I have that somewhere. It's a really good movie.
Never heard of it.
A killer semi-truck driver goes after this poor guy who's on a road trip. I'll have to dig it up.
But interesting.
It came out in the early 70s.
Does sound interesting.
So this movie is kind of like loosely based on his own, Spielberg's own life. Would you say you have a favorite Steven Spielberg movie off the top of your head? Can you think of one of his movies?
You know, I'm not an expert. E.T. was pretty good. I had to watch it as an adult because as a child, there was a fear some of the adults had that exposing the kids to some alien-like creature might make you more susceptible to demons or something. So I was not allowed to watch E.T. when I was little. It was considered too dangerous.
Was it because he had a glowing heart and that pointy glowing finger?
It was because my friend's dad, who was Catholic guy, said, I'm not letting my daughter watch that because then she'll get used to the idea of like seeing demons or something, like a scary alien-like creature. No,
that's
too
weird.
Too disturbing. So, but as an adult, I watched it, and I mean, it didn't expose me to anything bad. I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. So
I think as a kid, I think of Steven Spielberg as like now as an adult, I think of more of like the technical aspects, or like, oh, that's a Spielberg movie, and it just kind of like
throw
jumps
out
out.
some more of his movies because I'm not an expert on which movies he's done.
Oh, Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Oh no,
the Indiana Jones.
The Indiana
movies,
Jones. Okay, those were really good too.
Hook.
Yeah. Hook. Oh, okay.
Schindler's List.
Okay, I forgot about Hook.
Bridge of Spies. Remember Bridge of Spies?
Oh yeah, vaguely.
Tom Hanks.
No, when you said Hook, okay, his directing combined with Robin Williams and then that Rufio character, Rufio.
You know that movie on Rotten Tomatoes has like low 30s of critic reviews.
Hook?
Yeah.
I tried to show it to the kids, but it was a little bit too
Now we're just kind
adult.
of not even talking about the Fabelmans. It's just kind of like, let's talk about...
kind of reminiscing.
This is kind of a Steven Spielberg story hour is what it's morphing into.
Oh, yeah.
This is what happens
let's get
when
into
you
the
don't
Fabelmans.
take notes. Because of the people in the Top Gun, one guy, my Top Gun review with my wife...
It's been 4 minutes.
The guy
here,
said that this
right?
video review was all over the place. No structure. So anyway...
Well, maybe that's what we're known for. So
I think of Spielberg as like the great storyteller, Jaws, movies like that, where it's like, whoa, Jaws. Like my dad saw that movie in high school in 1975, I think, when it came out, and he said it was like a big, like touchstone event, right?
That's
And then like, you know, George Lucas was one of his friends, and at the time, like, you know, 2 years later he's putting out Star Wars, and they kind of like, they were big touchstone
So compared
people.
to those movies, though,
But
how
the
does
Fabelmans
how
as
does
a
this movie
biopic,
rank?
you know me, I get really into the period correct films.
Yeah.
And P.T. Anderson does such a great job of doing the period correct, authentic. And
Yes.
his movie that we saw, Licorice Pizza, P.T. Anderson,
That was a good
excellent
movie.
period film, but not everybody liked that movie. This movie too, Spielberg did a great job. They pulled out all the stops. But then it took place in the 60s and the 50s, but like it felt like the story wasn't so much like stuck in the past, where like they were living these real experiences in the past, even though like everything was like portrayed from his childhood point of time, right?
We liked the authenticity.
I like the authenticity.
The period correctness.
I
of
love
it.
Steven
Yeah.
Spielberg, the way he captures light. Sometimes he'll have these
Yes.
kind of like foggy sequences. You know what I mean? If you've watched a Spielberg movie, like the way he kind of has like a soft lens, or the way he does color saturation, like that 1964 beach scene where he's like capturing it
Yeah,
in
that was
student
neat.
film. Like the way he played that back, it's like, man, it's so good. But then
Yeah.
the whole premise of the movie, he's kind of like coming at it from like maybe a little bit of a chip on his shoulder from his Jewishness towards Christianity, because you're Jewish heritage and your dad's Jewish. So maybe you can speak more into that, because I can't.
Well, I don't know if that has a whole lot to do with it. I mean,
I felt like there was this whole
my childhood.
his whole he kind of had this one scene with this high school girlfriend, and I felt like his portrayal of Christianity was coming from someone with a chip on his shoulder towards Christians, or a bench against
he portrayed
Christians.
that he got bullied by some of the non-Jewish kids at school who called him, you know, his last name was Fabelman. They called him Bagelman. They put like a Jew or a bagel in his locker, and
they gave him a hard time about being. It was he felt like he was treated anti-Semitic, and he obviously was. Then, we kind of read about it.
Yeah. So then, not to give it away, but there's a scene.
He has a high school girlfriend who's like a devout Catholic, and she kind of mixes Jesus with like sex symbols of the time, like Pat Boone and Elvis
says,
on the
like,
wall.
Comments about
and
Jesus is sexy and stuff.
It was just kind of made me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a dig against Christianity, but whatever.
She wants to convert him to Christianity, but then she's also very loose, like morally, and kind of wants to.
And it's some uptight Catholic girl.
Make out with him all the time.
She's in her bedroom with him, with the door closed, and my wife and I are just like, this doesn't happen in the early 60s, that some Catholic girl's parents are just going to let him bring some boy into her bedroom. Back to the Future. Although
shut the door.
He was in her bed and his pants were on the hope chest. Back to the Future.
Well, that's a different movie, honey.
And that was a Robert Zemeckis movie. Anyway,
that was
we're going off on tangents here.
We're meandering again.
Technically, I loved it. I also didn't. I felt like this message was very, I don't want to say hedonistic, but I guess kind of like the mom. If you read the story and you're going to this movie, it's not really a spoiler. His mom and dad got divorced. She left her husband for her husband's best friend and went back to Phoenix. And the whole moral that I got out of this movie was just kind of like live and let live. You got to do what makes you happy. You can't. Life's too short to kind of like be miserable and unhappy.
Right.
And it kind of like gave her a hall pass to just go on this immoral path of like self-grandizing, self-fulfillment. And that's okay, because you should be happy in your life. And I didn't like that. I wanted a more positive moral message. Like, she ended the family. And like, there was that one scene where like the sister was the only one who was like, the mom is so selfish. She's ruining the family dynamic. But, you know, I guess Spielberg wanted it to be like looking back at the past, like, well, life's too short to not want to be happy and just do what you want to do.
It kind of tied in the theme of him, because he was really interested in filmmaking, and his dad was mom a computer was supportive, engineer, but his
dad wanted him to do something more practical.
Right.
And I think that he kind of crossed the line of like infidelity and pursuing your dreams. He kind of put them on an even playing field of like, life's too short to not do what you want to do.
He kind of meshed those two ideas. Like his mom,
obviously pursue what you want to do in life, but there are moral turpitudes. Is that the right word? You know what I mean?
I think that's a word. Yeah.
You know, I just didn't like that, how he's just like lumping like morality in with like your personal dreams and ambition.
Well, his mother was the one who was portrayed as being more supportive of his film career, but then his dad was kind of always calling it a hobby and saying like, all right, you'll get over this, you'll move past it,
It's a phase.
you'll go into a real career someday. And so it was kind of portrayed that the mom was the free-spirited one and the one who's going to go after her dreams and go after what mattered to her. And then she also supported the son in going after his dreams and what he wanted. But it's different when you're married and you made these vows and have a commitment to your husband and your family. I think, like you said, it's a big stretch. There's a big difference there between going after a career that you love versus, wrecking your whole family because on a whim because, well, I have to go.
And they did kind of portray the mom as kind of like this unsettled, like she got a monkey one day because it made her happy.
Because she went to the zoo as a kid and she enjoyed that. So all of a sudden there's a monkey there throwing light bulbs and destroying the whole house. So.
I'm looking at the clock here. I'm running way long. We're losing.
All right, we're gonna have
viewers.
to definitely let people know that there's spoilers.
So
the monkey is a spoiler.
I am putting my review on it, and I didn't even look up any of the critics' reviews. I think Rotten Tomatoes said it was 82%. I didn't look up Google or I didn't look up IMDb, so I apologize. I am 3 out of 5 on this film. I like the technical achievements. I like the period correctness and the authenticity of the time. But the moral message, I did not like. So that lowered my score from the 4s and 5s down to 3 out of 5.
On the morality and the messaging, I'm gonna kind of do 2 reviews. I'm gonna go 2 out of 5 on that because it wasn't completely immoral, but and it did kind of portray some of the effects of the mother's selfishness, but it did still give too much of a rose-colored glasses, like, oh, everything's fine in the end, or she was justified, or whatever. And then the part where they made fun of Christianity, that whole part just didn't need to be in there at all. So it was too much of a stretch. It wasn't even believable. So, but then as far as how authentic it was, like with the time period and how engaging the story was,
it was 2 hours, almost 2.5 hours long, and so, it was. I mean, you wanted it to keep going.
So on that, I'd probably be like 4 out of 5 because I enjoyed watching the movie. It was just sad, like knowing how their family fell apart, and
then when you read the real life part of it too.
But when you saw how he followed his dreams and how he did become a filmmaker and the passion and the excitement that he had for it, that part was really neat. So it was well done. It was just don't buy into the wrong messaging.
Don't buy into the wrong messaging of just live your best life and compromise your morality.
Yeah.
And if you don't resonate with that, that's okay.
Marriage is a commitment before God. It wasn't designed to make you happy.
And this is the first time we've ever gotten preachy on one of my low-budget reviews. Until next time, folks, I'm losing followers. We will see you then.
Bye.